Welcome into the Hard Count, the show whose ops does not have Nick Saban, so I don't see how they can stop us. It is Tuesday, June 24th, last one on the face of the planet, year 2025. If you're keeping track, we got a lot to get into, man. If you are woke to what I just said about Nick Saban no longer being at Alabama, a certain Thomas Castellanos likes his odds week one against the Crimson Tide. We'll unpack that. We're going to talk about fixing the transfer portal. All right, so stay tuned for that, as well as maybe some key additions that are not from the quarterback position but are still going to have a massive impact on the 2025 season. Ripple effects, we got a lot to jump into, man. So glad to have you all a part of this. Media days around the corner. College football 25, or wow, college football 26, the video game, even closer. Great time to be alive. Glad to have you all a part of this. Make sure you are subscribed. But let's start with what I alluded to at the intro. Thomas Castellanos sat down with Pete Nakis from On3 and gave us what I would call right now the quote of the offseason in college football. He said, quote, "They don't have Nick Saban to save them. I just don't see them stopping me." Now, I asked Pete Nakis after this, hey, what was the lead up to that quote from old Tommy C? Did you tee him up in a way to say, what do you think of Bama's defense now that Nick Saban's not there? Pete Nakis, according to him, just said, I asked him if he was excited to play Alabama. And then Tommy C came with the "they don't have Saban to save them" quote. Are you serious? And you're not tuned into college football year round? I mean, I know you are, but if you're the average college football fan, like that game now has, I think, even more juice than it did before. No, scratch that. I know it has more juice than it did before. There's a couple of ways to look at this thing. Depending on your vantage point on Florida State and on Thomas Castellanos, I think you view this differently. If you're a coach at Florida State, you're like, Tommy, first it's the no primetime thing, and now it's the they can't stop me because they don't have Nick Saban thing. Like, are we sure we want to go down this path? Like, let's keep it all in house. Let's speak softly and carry a big stick. Maybe say something like that in the team room to our guys, or maybe say that in the locker room, or say that in the meeting room to, Gus Malzahn, saying how, okay, I like this, and this. They can't stop me defensively, but like to put this out there for the world, Tommy, we're trying to have the element of surprise here, brother. We're trying to maybe be a little bit more subtle. And so Tommy threw that out the window. And that's how you feel if you're a Florida State coach. As a college football fan, as a college football connoisseur, I'm all the way here for this, dude. I'm all the way here for this for a couple of reasons. One, it's just like it's a fun storyline. It juices this game up even more, like I already said. But if you are just a competitive person and you have played competitive sports before, then you understand you can talk as much trash as you want to before the actual game, because guess what? At a certain point in time, you will then have to back it up. And Thomas Castellanos is not speaking from the vantage point of a bench warmer at Florida State where they're going to play week one and he'll watch the whole game, have the best seat in the house on the sideline, and the game will finish and he will never have recorded anything in the box score. Tommy C is going to start for you for Florida State for that game. So him saying this now, he has to eventually go prove it and back it up. And so I love the confidence. That's one part of this. Also, I love the fact that his entire locker room now has to meet the intensity and meet the standard that Thomas Castellanos has put out there for the entire public to consume. There is extra pressure on his teammates now to go back up Thomas Castellanos. There's extra stake in the game that maybe there wasn't even before, and it's Alabama, so there should be all the juice in the world around this game for Florida State. But now this forces everyone else to play to a different level to make Thomas Castellanos right. And I like that because you won 2 games last year at Florida State. So if you're a Florida State fan, I get the thought of, hey, let's maybe not, poke the bear too much after we won 2 games a season ago. Like, let's worry about beating our G5 opponents before we go ahead and call out Bama. Hear that. But it can't get much worse. Don't you need a little bit of an edge? A little bit of swag? A little bit of fire? Isn't that what all the best teams have? Someone that's kind of ready to throw the gauntlet down and everyone else kind of follows suit? I'm all the way. I love this. And I think in some ways it could bode well for Florida State. I said this in our breakout video. I'm going to say it again. If you're looking at quarterbacks that gave Alabama trouble a year ago, gave them a little bit of, I don't know the right way to say this, that took them off balance a little bit, it was quarterbacks that had a skill set that resembled one of a Thomas Castellanos. Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt scored 40 on him. All right, I'm just saying. Jackson Arnold, not even the most mobile quarterback that Alabama played. When Oklahoma beat them, yeah, Jalen Miller threw it to their team a couple of times, but that Jackson Arnold got busy on the ground, over 100 yards. I'm just saying, Thomas Castellanos and his skill set lines up with what those quarterbacks did well against Alabama that allowed them to win that football game. Even Nico Iamaleava at Tennessee. I mean, a little bit of wiggle to him. So what I will say, though, if you're Florida State, you did surrender whatever element of surprise you had going into this thing. There is no, oh, it's Florida State, they won 2 games. No, you got Thomas Castellanos giving Kalen DeBoer and Kane Womack bulletin board material, and we're sitting here in the month of June. So again, I love this as a college football fan, as someone who gets to cover this sport for a living, which is hilarious. I also love this because it's just more juice, more excitement. I love it as a competitive person because you then have to go back it up if you're Tommy C and if you're his team. But one more thing I want to add here. Let's just say that Florida State wins this football game. And I know it's double-digit point spread favoring Bama. I understand all that. It may not be the most likely outcome, but let's just say that Florida State wins this football game. Think about the way that juices your team the rest of the way, that your quarterback called his shot and your team backed him up in the confidence that you have from that moment beating Bama after telling everyone you're going to beat Bama more or less from that quote, from what I can gather. Think about the way that just instills a different kind of a pep in your step if you're Florida State. And Florida State needs a lot of the things. Pep in their step wouldn't hurt. Wouldn't hurt after what last year was. So go ahead and check that story out from Pete Nakos. That full conversation is phenomenal stuff. A lot of good quotes there from old Thomas Castellanos. But he has thrown the gauntlet down. This game will not be in primetime, but Florida State's quarterback is cutting a promo ahead of things that will make it feel very primetime-ish for those that are tuned in Tallahassee. Man, it's just exciting we're talking about week 1 games, dude. I love everything that has to do with that now. Now, I got to thinking on my drive, so this is kind of some inside baseball. Last week, even though we had the content humming, even though we didn't miss any shows, your boy was actually in the great state of Arkansas, getting some time with the family, getting a little rejuvenation for the season. And so that's like a 5.5-hour drive from Nashville. Bottom line, your boy had some windshield time, all right? So during that windshield time, get to thinking about the show, get to thinking about segments, get to thinking about y'all. And one of the things that popped into my mind was like, man, how do we fix this transfer portal? Because I think everyone across the board in college football can agree the transfer portal is a good thing for the most part. There should be player mobility, but it's also a little bit broken right now. Coaches feel that way. I think fans feel that way. I don't think we want guys playing for 5 different teams in 4 years. You hear what I'm saying? I think it needs to be fixed. So during my drive from Nashville to Arkansas, I think I fixed the transfer portal. All right, so a couple of things I want to throw out at you. The first and most important fix to the transfer portal is we are going to have one window for immediate transfer eligibility. There will still be a time where you can transfer in the spring, but if you transfer in the spring, you will have to abide by the old rules. Ergo, you got to sit out a year. All right, we'll circle back to that. But let's focus on this first portal window that I just spoke to, the one portal window that will allow you to transfer and be eligible immediately. Going to do a couple of things to this, all right? First, we're going to cut it from 30 days down to 20 days. All right, so shave it up a little bit. Give Pete Nakos and Steve Wilfong a little more time with the family, you would hope. Like, listen, everybody knows they're going to transfer in October anyway if you're transferring in the winter for the most part. Like nobody's really sitting there, the weekend of the conference title game and saying, man, should I do it? Like, you've thought this through already. Most guys already know where they're going to go. So we're going to shave it from 30 to 20 days. We're also going to move that window post-national title game. So we're not going to have this whole thing during the college football playoff where guys are like, hey, I might jump in. Hey, I might do it. I might jump in the transfer portal if you don't give me what I want to get. We're going to try and negate that a little bit. The reason for this is we are trying to make this a thing where there is more leverage for the schools as opposed to just all the leverage with the players, okay? Like the reason why we have this one transfer portal window, go back to the Nico Iamaleava situation with Tennessee and how that whole thing went down. If Nico Iamaleava's camp is not able to make him eligible for the next season without a shadow of a doubt, they probably don't walk in with as much bravado and demand as much of Tennessee, and they don't have as much leverage to demand what they demanded from Tennessee, and that whole thing, you would hope, gets worked out and Nico stays at Tennessee and it's not the black eye for college football or the bad story for college football. that it was. Now, I fully understand there will still be back channels. There will still be tampering. All that will still exist, but it won't have the same, I don't think, immediate impact that it would have if you have the transfer portal open during the college football playoff and all that going on. So that's the first window. To recap it, we're shaving it from 30 days to 20 days, and we are making it a thing where that is the only window you can immediately be eligible for the upcoming college football season, and it's after the national title game. All right? So let's make that clear. Now, you say, well, JD, what about the spring portal window? It still exists, but we're eliminating it as we know it. Because right now, you can transfer after spring practice, no big deal, you're eligible right away. That's not the case anymore. In the way that I'm fixing the transfer portal, we go back to the old rules of you have to sit out for one college football season if you transfer post-spring practice, all right? Now, the reason why I want to do this is because I think the guys that transfer post-spring, I don't always align with the reasons as to why they would transfer. A lot of the times it's things like, well, I want more NIL. Well, I lost my job, so I got to transfer somewhere else. And I hear all that, but like we need to, as much as possible, incentivize guys playing football during spring practice with the team they're going to play with in the fall. Because I think it helps the coaching staff know who their guys are going to be for the upcoming season. It helps the players put up their best performance for the upcoming season. Like it gives us a better quality of ball, and it helps everyone involved that's actually playing the sport. All right. Now, you say, well, JD, but the spring window, like what if you got a coach that comes in and he's new? Okay, well, if that happens, then you hit the reset on what the winter portal was. So I'm not saying new head coach shows up and you got to go through spring practice, and if you transfer, then shame on you. You got to say, that's not what I'm saying. New head coach, you do have that opportunity to transfer if that ends up being the case that you find yourself in and you don't like your situation. So there's that part of it. So the two buckets are you have a head coaching change. That's the all-time exception. The other bucket, though, is what I just said. I want more NIL. I'm not going to my position battle, whatever. The solution, I think, here for that second bucket of guys that like genuinely are going to battle for a spot, but after they finish spring practice, they're going to lose their job, and they're like, hey, well, a great example of this is Steve Angeli. Steve Angeli at Notre Dame, we told you we think he's going to start for Notre Dame in the fall and going to be your starting quarterback, but if he didn't win the job in the spring, he was not going to have another year of eligibility to use it, to wait another year at Notre Dame. Like this is his last shot for Steve Angeli. And so what I want to implement here to fix the spring transfer portal and fix the portal overall is two separate terms for someone in Steve Angeli's spot. The first is a competitive redshirt. Okay, competitive redshirt. What do I mean by that? Well, what happened for Steve Angeli is, let's say that what happens, doesn't win the job at Notre Dame. He's not forced to transfer somewhere else and learn a playbook through fall camp and have to play one season and just put his best foot forward for the NFL draft. He gets a chance now to have a competitive redshirt to go somewhere, sit out for a year, and then the next season, without using that last year of eligibility, he gets to play that last year of eligibility a year from now, if you're tracking that, all right? Now, the other thing that could happen, let's say Steve Angeli says, you know what, I don't want to do the competitive redshirt thing. I want to play now. He then has the opportunity to submit to Marcus Freeman to ask for a competitive release, where Marcus Freeman can say, okay, you know what, Steve Angeli, you did right by us. You want to play this year. You don't want to be in college any longer. We're going to grant you this competitive release to play right now. Now, if Steve Angeli doesn't get his competitive redshirt, which is a one-time thing, doesn't get a competitive release, well, then we're a little bit out of luck. But I do think that there's a lot of validity to the idea that we need to give credit to these guys that are saying, you know what, I can go win a job in the spring. I'm going to put my best foot forward and let the chips fall where they may. Like, I think we need to reward that and incentivize that. I'm not here for guys saying, well, I may not win the job in the spring, so I got to transfer somewhere else tomorrow. Like, let's reward guys wanting to be competitive, all right? So that's what the whole reason behind the competitive redshirt and the competitive release. Should be noted, the competitive redshirt is a one-time thing. So you don't get to submit for 3 or 4 competitive redshirts. Also, we got a real committee doing this thing. We got football people. I don't know who exactly yet. We got football people assessing, hey, were you actually in a position battle? You don't just get to submit, floozy competitive redshirt waivers every other year and try to get a new year of eligibility. We're not doing that. But I do think there's a lot of value in these guys having spring practice, being rewarded for wanting to compete during spring practice. And then if you don't win the job, okay, we're not going to punish you for losing the year of eligibility. You're going to have the opportunity now to get that year of eligibility back. So we fixed the portal. Congratulations to everyone involved, man. We did it. It's a monumental day for us here on this show and a monumental day for college football. So for the powers that be in college football, I don't know who that is anymore. It's definitely not the NCAA. Maybe it's going to be Nick Saban at some point. I don't know. But the powers that be in college football, competitive redshirt, competitive release, and bombs away, baby. We love that. We love that. We love that. We love that. But speaking of the transfer portal, quarterbacks get a lot of shine, and they should get a lot of shine, dude. We talked about John Mateer a lot on this show. We've talked a lot about what Joey Aguilar is going to be on this show. We're talking about that actually in the future. But who are the guys that transferred that aren't quarterbacks but are going to be massively impactful in the 2025 season? Got a list of them for you. All right, we'll unpack them together. This is kind of sad. We got several names here from Purdue. And this is the first. Max Clare, transfer tight end from Purdue to Ohio State, had the most receiving yards in the Big Ten a season ago at the tight end position from anyone not named Tyler Warren. This dude is a middle-of-the-field problem. All right, 6'4", 236 pounds. The reason why he's going to be so impactful is because you got to account for him in the middle of the field, like I just said. But when you do that, you also got to give safety help to Jeremiah Smith, also to Brandon Ennis, also to Mylan Graham. Like you can't account for all these different individuals on Ohio State's offense and also account for Max Clare in the middle of the field. So one way or another, someone's going to eat. Now, a lot of this will be on Julian Sand to deliver the pill to these guys and make sure he maximizes what defenses aren't able to account for. That's a big part of this. But Max Clare, I'm just telling you, when the Ohio State offense blows up here in 25 in their passing game, make no mistake about it, he will be a big part of that. I think he's probably one of the best tight end pieces they've had in some time there in Columbus, for my money. So Max Clare, big time get for Ohio State. Hope his presence will be felt here this coming fall. Now from the Cal rhythm, running back, Jaden Ott transferring from Cal to Norman, Oklahoma. What he brings to the table for me, he just supercharges everything Oklahoma is going to do on offense. It makes everything harder to stop in Norman. Like the RPO game. You want to account for Jaden Ott? You want to account for Dion Burks in the second level of your defense. You want to account for John Mateer and his legs. Like, just same thing we said with Max Clare is true of Jaden Ott. There's so much with him that you have to deal with, and there's so much within the offense you have to deal with, to where I don't think you can check all of the boxes when you defend Oklahoma. Quarterback run game, read option game. Like, you're going to account for John Mateer and Jaden Ott, a guy who you can have run the football, you can throw it to him. Like, there's so much that he does well that defenses have to honor. I think he's one of the missing pieces to put this offense under Ben Arbuckle over the top. So when Oklahoma's offense is explosive next year with John Mateer, he's a big part of it, but pay attention to how much attention is paid to a one Jaden Ott coming in again from UC Berkeley. Our second Purdue player of this list will not be the last. Oregon safety Dylan Thieneman, really good player. All right, that's the obvious part. I mean, he was super productive at Purdue a season ago. He is a triple-digit tackle guy. Like, he's a baller for you. That's the obvious part. I love as much for Oregon what they're getting with him on the field as they're getting in the locker room. It sounds a little bit cliche, but, like, Oregon's going to be good in the secondary, I think, because of what he brings to the table. But I feel the same way about Dylan Thieneman as I felt about Caleb Downs a couple years last year, I guess, at Ohio State. That's not saying Dylan Thieneman's Caleb Downs. Hear me clearly. Dylan Thieneman, everything you hear about him from the folks in Eugene is this dude is about football. He is about himself being an NFL draft pick. He does everything possible to be a first-round NFL draft pick, is what I have been told. So when that's the way that a guy who just transferred into Eugene is operating, think about the pressure that puts on everyone else in the DB room. The pressure it puts on everybody else on the defensive side of the football. When you have someone who goes about their business as a professional, I think it raises everyone else's level of play. And for Oregon, that's definitely going to be something that benefits them here in 2025 as they seek to go finish business here and go win a national championship. Georgia Tech transfer wide receiver to Auburn, Eric Singleton. The best way to put this, he's a weapon. He's a matchup winner. And you give Hugh Freeze a Swiss Army knife matchup winner in Eric Singleton, I think it's going to elevate Jackson Arnold's play. I think it's going to take pressure off of Cam Coleman. Hugh Freeze has not had someone like Eric Singleton since he got to Auburn a part of his offense. He's had good players, had some young players, but to be able to move him in the slot, move him out wide, Heck, put him in the backfield if you wanted to. Like, to be able to break rules for a defense and create matchups in that way just makes everybody's life better. Makes everyone's life easier on offense. Now, Auburn last year, they were good, but they weren't able to finish and get in the end zone. They were, I believe, like top 30 in yards per play in America, but their points per game numbers were egregious. I think Eric Singleton could be a big part as to why they correct that here in 2025. Now, the last Purdue player, this is tragic, man. The Purdue Exodus special today on the hard count. Our heart goes out to everyone out there in Boilermaker country. But Will Helt transferring over from Purdue to Clemson. Think about how weird it must be for Will Helt to show up at Clemson and they're like, "You're a transfer?" Yeah. From the portal? Yeah. Oh, wait. Haven't seen any of you guys around here before. Welcome, Will Helt. He's going to help bolster what the Clemson pass rush is going to be in 2025. And the feel for me with Will Helt added to that lineup, we keep saying this, it feels very vintage Clemson, right? A lot of names you can mention. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to be Christian Wilkins or any of those elite guys that have come through there, but you mentioned Will Helt. You mentioned Peter Woods. You mentioned TJ Parker. It's like, okay, Clemson's going to have some guys now to force the issue. It's going to be a big part of what they do week 1 against LSU. Adding another name to that mix, I think it's a big win for Dabo. I think it's a big win for that defense. And Tom Allen now, how he operates, the new DC out there, he runs hot. All right, they're gonna apply some pressure. Will the Clemson Tigers here in 2025, and Will Helt will be a massive part of that. So another name, more depth, more bodies, more pieces, more everything for Clemson on the defense side of the football. Last one I want to get to here, Florida wide receiver by way of UCLA, J. Michael Sturdivant. J. Michael gets sturdy one time, 6'3", 216, and he can run. He makes you feel a lot more confident if you're a Florida fan in maxing out what DJ Lagway is supposed to be in 2025. Because that's the buzz in Gainesville, right? Hey, DJ Lagway, what he was at the end of last year, we got a shot now. Feel good about our chances here in Gator country, and you should. What last year was exciting, but DJ Lagway will only take you as far as your wide receiving core is able to equip him to take you. All right? Now, what he does to me, obviously the potential is exciting and the ceiling for him is exciting. I think he's a floor changer for the wide receiver room. Because outside of him, there's a lot of youth. Eugene Wilson's a guy you're obviously excited about if he can stay healthy, but like you're talking about Dallas Wilson, Mr. 2 Bills in the spring game, great, true freshman. Aiden Mizell, young buck, want to see more from him. There's a lot of youth there, but when you add J. Michael Sturdivant into the mix with some production coming over from UCLA and the body of work that he brings to the table physically, you feel a lot better about, okay, the floor should be a good bit higher based on having him in the game for us in the offense, and defense is having to account for him and the way he can help DJ Lash. So a lot of names to account for here across college football. That's just, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. We could have done probably 10 to 15. Maybe we'll do the segment again, but a lot of guys to keep track of. Quarterbacks get a lot of shine. They should, but there's a lot of portal pieces playing other positions that are going to have a huge impact on the 2025 season. That is the wonderful sport that is college football. Now, speaking of impact, started to think, too, on my drive, man, what are some things in the college football world that would just send a ripple across not just the 2025 season, but like the 2026 season and beyond even. And I got to thinking about a couple of different examples, but one that came to mind most quickly, a ripple effect that would be huge would be if Miami wins the ACC in 2025. We'll talk about that right now. Before we do, though, Miami fans, y'all been good to us. If you want to get all the content around your Canes, all the content around the wonderful sport that is college football, make sure you are subscribed. Appreciate y'all. Helps us out tremendously. So the first thought now, if this happens, how are you going to negatively recruit against Mario Cristobal? And you laugh a little bit because he's a great recruiter, and Miami has slowly but surely taken the steps on the field to be in position to make this a possible thing. But what's the negative recruitment or the negative thing people always say against Mario Cristobal, right now at least? Well, yeah, they got the NIL thing. Well, yeah, Miami's probably a cool place to live, but like, what have they done? It's always a substance conversation, right? Hard to argue with the trophy. All right, hard to argue with a team that not just wins the ACC, but at that point locks up a spot in the college football playoff. There's no more to be said at that point in time against Mario Cristobal and what he's built there out there in Coral Gables. Also, you turn around and you say, well, we probably should have seen this coming, right? Because every single year, I just said this, they've gotten better. It's 5 wins, 7 wins, 10 wins. It wouldn't be the most absurd thing ever if they made the college football playoff and won the ACC here in 2025. I'm just saying. Now, the part of this that would, I think, be most ripply, if you will, the impact we'd all feel across the college football landscape. Mario Cristobal, speaking of him being negatively recruited against, he's a dog on the recruiting trail. We've seen that. Feels like every single year Miami has the best class in the ACC. Multiple top 10 classes under Cristobal so far. If they were to make the playoff and win the ACC and they have that substance, you're arming him with ridiculous recruiting ammo. Most importantly, the recruiting ammo he could then use to recruit the state of Florida. If you win the state of Florida, on the recruiting trail that is, you have everything you need to win national championships, in my humble opinion. Very few states like that. I think Texas is one of those. I think you could argue California at their best is one of those if you're also able to recruit other parts of the country well in addition to that. But if you recruit Florida, make no mistake about it. Look at those old Saban teams, Alabama, stockpiled with dudes from Florida, dudes from South Florida. And so when you have a pitch to guys to say, hey, stay home, stay within this 305 area code and you can do everything you want to do on the football field, there's no better pitch than that, dude. On top of the NIL, on top of the brand power, on top of everything that comes to Mario Cristobal in Miami, like that in itself, I think would be absolutely huge. Because you also think if you win the ACC, I don't think it's a stretch to assume that you probably beat Florida State, and who knows where you are against a team like Florida, but put the hurdle on them a season ago in Gainesville, so all bets are off. If you can win the ACC and what that would do for your in-state recruiting, be huge, man. Be absolutely huge, and it would solidify Miami as a power in the college football world, I think, here for the next couple of seasons, as long as Cristobal is cooking like he's cooking on the recruiting trail. And the last thing I want to say, and we've said this a lot around Miami, a lot around Carson Beck, especially with what Cam Ward did last year, but that quarterback blueprint is there. It's absolutely there. Now, what happens with Shannon Dawson? Who knows? I know there was talk around him in the Rice job earlier when that whole thing became open. I don't think it's irresponsible to assume that, he will eventually at some point in time become a head coach. But it's still Mario Cristobal's Miami, where you make the pitch of, no, you come here as a quarterback. Cam Ward came here. First-round pick, first overall pick. Carson Beck, we win the ACC, make the playoff. I think it's fair to assume he will be a first-round pick. Whether it's the transfer portal, whether it's the high school level, you can then attract top quarterbacks, I think, with very minimal resistance, or at least very minimal resistance to the plan that you have in place. And if that's true, man, we keep saying this. Quarterbacks in college football, if you have a quarterback, you have a chance. In modern college football, I should say. The 12-team playoff, the 16-team playoff, as this thing continues to expand, having a top-tier quarterback will only grow in importance. The rest of the roster, absolutely a big part of that. But having a quarterback, that will be the difference maker for you when you make the postseason and when you're in position then to go play for some hardware past your conference championship. And Miami winning their conference championship, I think, would only solidify their opportunity to bring in more top quarterbacks. Kind of the chicken or the egg situation. Cam Ward has success. Carson Beck has success. Other quarterbacks see Miami and say, I probably could have success too. Not a bad pitch to make. Not a bad spot to be in. So Miami winning the ACC, the ripple effect of that would be felt across the college football landscape. I'll say that right now. Another ripple effect I want us to unpack. What if Bryce Underwood in 2025 is just like the man? It's a funny way to say it, right? But what if he's just like the dude from day one? Now, we've sort of rode the fence a little bit on this. I don't think it's crazy to assume he could be like an all-conference caliber kind of guy. I also, at the exact same time, think from a Michigan fan, I'd treat this with open hands. Get excited about the future, understand the dude's stupid talented, give it some time to evolve, let it bake a little bit. But the conversation we're having here around Bryce Underwood like being the man, it's beyond anything we've said is possible, or at least thought about being possible here on this show. Like Bryce Underwood being the man, I'm talking about he's like first team all conference. I'm talking about he's having the best season the Michigan quarterbacks had since Jim Harbaugh was the head coach there, like accounting for 30-plus touchdowns. That's the kind of season I think Bryce Underwood in this situation is having. The proof at that point for Michigan of the new Michigan they are with the NIL and the way they're attacking the recruiting trail and Sharon Moore and that whole era, at that point, the proof is very firmly in the pudding. This is our quarterback, going to be here for a minute. This is the brand of ball we're playing, going to do that for a while. This is the direction. Want to play for us? Because at that point, you're probably scoring a lot of points. Obviously, quarterback's balling. Probably winning a lot. Because I don't think that defense is going anywhere. That's been the calling card for Michigan fans at this point in the college football calendar is, well, Bryce Underwood, he gets time to develop because defense can hold it down while he's getting up to speed. You're probably a playoff team, and this is the reality for you. Okay, probably what's going to happen if Bryce Underwood is emphatically that guy from the jump. And when that happens now, NIL has everything it needs to really get cranked up. Because this is, I think, the misconception around NIL. People think if you just have a bag to throw at a player, you get that player. And maybe sometimes that's true. But you know when NIL is really dangerous? When the other part of the equation is on-field success and development. Right? Like Texas, great example. People talk about the Lambos and their official visits and all that and how much they have, this ridiculous NIL budget. And maybe they do. But guess what? They've also made the college football playoff semifinals the last 2 seasons. Also get dudes drafted. All right? Now, Michigan, they get dudes drafted. That's very clear from this last NFL draft. But I'm just saying, when you have the on-field product under Sharon Moore to go make the college football playoff, plus you can get paid everything else you deserve to be paid, according to the other schools as well, like I think that in itself would be a dangerous thing for the rest of the college football world. On top of the fact that you got Bryce Underwood you're pitching to say, hey, come play with him. He's going to be here for a couple of years. Receivers, come play with that dude. Offensive linemen, defensive linemen. Like this is going to be the guy that is kind of the motor of our football team. Don't you want to be a part of his team? Yeah, probably not a bad pitch to make. Now the subplot within all this I want to call our attention to, if this happens, there is the inevitable reality that Sharon Moore will find himself in where he's probably going to have to adapt and have to make new hires to his staff. That's not saying that it's for sure going to be the case in 2026, but like at some point in time, Wink Martindale, he's been considered for NFL jobs. It wouldn't be shocking if he took another job in the next couple of years. Chip Lindsey, if he elevates Bryce Underwood to first-team all-conference, he'll probably get head coaching offers. So like at that point in time, we then get to see pretty quickly, okay, Sharon Moore, not just what kind of head coach are you when it comes to building a roster, what kind of head coach are you when it comes to adapting and retooling your staff year in and year out to have success? Because that's what all the best coaches in the sport have been able to do and will continue to do here as we move forward in the world that is college football in 2025. But this isn't crazy to think could happen. And if it does happen, Michigan is not just cooking with gas, they're an absolute powder keg that's about to blow up in the world of college football. Now, speaking of ripple effects, big ripple effect or potential ripple effect here for us in the world of recruiting. If you're tuned into high school recruiting, I would obviously co-sign you getting dialed in right now in the month of June and heading into July. But the Elite 11 just happened. And I was on vacation this past week, so we didn't get a chance to do a video in real time about it. But Texas commit Diabell took home the MVP from the Elite 11, the folks for that whole operation that judged that competition, but also On3's MVP for the 11. So if you're tracking at home, 2 separate parties, from what I can gather, watched that whole competition go down and said, you know what, Diabell, best quarterback here, give him the MVP. When you're the best in a group of the best, that says something. And we already knew Diabell was really good. Okay, so this isn't breaking news. Diabell's going to be a good quarterback. But I just think to show up at a spot like that, best quarterback competition in America, and to ball out the way that it sounds like he balled out, I think that speaks volumes to the kind of quarterback they're getting out there on the 40 acres. And the first thought that I had when I saw this graphic flash across my timeline, I was out there in the great state of Arkansas on vacation. I'm like, Steve Sarkisian, looks like another further proof in the pudding that he's going to have a tier 1 quarterback to run his show for a while there on the 40. Because you say, you got Quinn Ewers, you got Arch Manning, and then you're going to have Diabell, you would imagine, there as the next guy. And then who knows if you got a one KJ Lacey who ends up rolling for you and doing some good things. He could also be a baller, absolutely true. But I tweeted that out, and a lot of people got at me and said, whoa, JD, Quinn Ewers? You think he's a tier 1 quarterback? JD, he was a 7th-round pick. I hear you. That 7th-round pick, though, took Texas to 2 semifinal appearances in the college football playoff. Had him a play away in both games from what I was looking at. Say, well, it wasn't Quinn Ewers. Okay, well, then doesn't that make this point even stronger? If it wasn't about Quinn Ewers and he wasn't all that great, according to some of y'all, again, I think Quinn Ewers was more than fine last year as a Texas quarterback. Not as himself, but another discussion for another time. If he's a 7th-round quarterback and Diabell ends up being better than a 7th-round quarterback, Arch Manning ends up being better than a 7th-round quarterback or having better production or whatever angle you want to take on this thing, and Texas was, again, a game away, in the Washington game, a play away, and the Ohio State game, a play away from tying that thing. You see what I'm saying here? Like, Texas is going to be really good for a long time, as long as Sark is there. That's another reason why I think Steve Sarkisian is built to keep Texas at Tier 1 as long as he's their head coach. Yes, NIL. Yes, the brand. But everything I think in modern college football, when it comes to building your roster, flows from having the quarterback. Yes, on your roster, but even on the recruiting trail, having a quarterback to recruit with, to say this is the guy you're playing with when you get here. You're going to be able to win a lot of games because he's pulling the trigger for you. Like, we felt the Arch effect for a couple of classes for Texas in 2023 and 2024. Like, huge get to get Arch Manning for sure, but look at the dudes that were in those classes with Arch Manning and after Arch Manning. On the defensive side of the football, Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons. I don't know if it was the driving force to getting those dudes. I don't think it hurt. I don't think it hurts saying we got Arch Manning playing quarterback for us. When you're here, it's going to be a good time. Are you in? I don't think it hurt to be able to make that pitch to them. And so give Sark a lot of credit, yes, for being able to recruit the quarterback, but being able to recruit the quarterback and then have the foresight to maximize on having the quarterback everywhere else on his roster. So Diabell, Elite 11 on MVP, on threes, Elite 11 on threes, Elite 11 MVP. Sounds like the future's in a good spot on the 40 acres. Surprise, surprise, Sark has another dude to pull the trigger for him back there for years to come. But I know it's the Arch era first, but I wanted to highlight that because I think that's kind of going under the radar. Diabell winning the MVP for the Elite 11, not something we should just gloss over here for us as some college football sickos. Now, college football sickos are dialed into the fact that Tennessee's going to have a new quarterback next year. All right, Joey Aguilar. We've called him Joey A few times. Reason why, I think it sounds cool. 2, Joey Aguilar is hard for me to say fast when we're doing this show because I get excited and I talk kind of fast, so that's kind of how I feel about that. But I got to thinking, man, what are you going to ask of Joey Aguilar here in 2025? Because with different quarterbacks, it's the same system under Josh Heupel, but is it not going to maybe look a touch different? Will there not be some different things you ask of him than a Nico Iamaleava? Because good quarterbacks, I'll rephrase that, good coordinators, good play callers, they call their offense differently for different quarterbacks. Like, they play to their skill set. And we've seen Josh Heupel do that for a number of different guys. Like, from Hendon Hooker to Joe Milton to Nico Iamaleava, he called the system differently. And so I think that's the first thought around this is, like, what are you going to ask of Joey Aguilar? If I'm Josh Heupel, I'm going to ask him to be Joey Aguilar. Like, don't come out here and try to be Joe Milton, to be Hendon Hooker. Like, go do what you do. Go do what got you to this spot, which is you pull the trigger, you let it rip, brother. Like, you play with a reckless abandon that maybe we have to rein in a little bit, want to cut down on those INTs for sure. But, like, I think Joey Aguilar playing to his own strengths and Josh Heupel elevating those, that's going to be a massive part as to why Tennessee is successful. Not because he's trying to, keep it all to the vest and trying to not make the big mistake. Like, just go let it rip, dude. Let Josh Heupel be Josh Heupel. Let him rein in those mistakes, but you go be you is, I think, the biggest part of this. Now, what's going to make him successful, though, is what happens upstairs for him, like the processing of it all. Tennessee, they go a mile a minute when it comes to how they operate offensively. They go NASCAR fast. It's not an overly complex system, I don't believe, to execute. It's a complex system when you're going a play every 20 seconds. That's the big task for Joey Aguilar. And Caden Smith, producer Hard Count, said it multiple times here. I want to see Joey Aguilar borderline roommate status with Josh Heupel this offseason. I want him as dialed into the inner workings of this offense as much as possible so that we can run our system on time to the speed that we want to run it at. Because how fast they go, a lot of times that puts a defense on their heels to equate to some big plays. And I don't want to undersell the complexity of the scheme because it's definitely a scheme that will give defenses fits just how it operates with the wide splits and all those things. But when you're having to think and sub and you're tired with how quick they run this offense, a lot of times you get coverage busts. You get guys out of position. And so the thing that I'm asking of Joey Aguilar, in addition to just be yourself and process quickly, let's be consistent, man. Like there were so many times last year where guys were schemed open via Josh Heupel. Now, receiver room, not off the hook. You're not off the hook if you're a receiver. You still got to win your matchups. We need more of that than we did last year. But there were a lot of times where guys were schemed open from Josh Heupel where Iamaliava was just missing on some of those dudes. Like it's just the fact of the matter. So there's not like a ton of, I don't think like NFL throws we're asking here of Joey Aguilar in this spot. But when those throws are there downfield, when we got a safety who bid on the run game because we've been gashing them for 4 yards of carry this game, and we got guys running open downfield, we got to hit them. We got to make sure we're consistent in those throws. When that happens, going to be in a really good spot, score a lot of points, and win a lot of football games with who that defense is going to be, I think, here in 2025 for the Vols. Now, the last thing that I think you're asking of Joey Aguilar is you need the presence that he is supposed to bring, having played a lot of college football. This is a dude now who's been around the block. Played a lot at App State, was at JUCO before that. Heck, did a spring in Los Angeles, which there are worse places to do a spring at than UCLA. You lost some leaders last year for Tennessee. No more Cooper Mays, no more Dylan Sampson. It's not me saying there's not leadership already in that locker room, but when your quarterback is a leader and when your quarterback's not a leader, there's two very different feels within a football team. I've been a part of both. And I'd much rather be in the locker room where I can look to my quarterback who's touching the football every single play and feel confident knowing, hey, that dude, I trust him. He does the right things. He's always on time with what he's supposed to be doing. He's always just on his P's and Q's. And he's also a vocal leader is another part of this, I'd love to see from Joey Aguilar. So just the overall presence to kind of steady what Tennessee is offensively after you lost your starting quarterback from your college football playoff run a year ago, I think that's a massive, massive thing that cannot be overstated when it comes to what he needs to bring to the table. So Joey Aguilar, excited to watch him here in 25. You're asking him to process quickly, be consistent, have some presence about himself, and then at the end of the day, man, just go be Joey A. Let it rip, be yourself, and I think the identity of the offense will follow and be pretty aggressive and be a lot of fun in that way. All right, last thing I want to leave us with here. I have a lot of excitement around a one Garrett Nussmeier, and I've said it a lot, man. LSU, I think, will play for the SEC championship when it's all said and done here on conference title weekend. And a big part of that to me is the progress I'm anticipating from a one Garrett Nussmeier. Like, last year was great for him. Over 4,000 yards. Yeah, some picks like to have back. Ball up top, it is what it is. But he did all that without a real run game. His first year in the system. An SEC schedule. Like, it wasn't necessarily just like the most teed up situation for him to go have the year that he had. And assuming he has more around him this year, I love everything there for Garrett Nussmeier to have more progress than for LSU to ball. So I want to unpack this together a little bit. What I just said, he's going into a year now where it's his second year in the system under Joe Sloan. Remember, last year was Joe Sloan's first year as the OC in Baton Rouge. The year before, it was Mike Denbrock and Jane Daniels, and they did numbers like Good Will Hunting. It was a good time. However, though, now with it being his second year in the system, y'all know you drive a car differently when you're not renting it, right? Like when you're getting it from the good folks over there at I was gonna say Expedia Enterprise rent a car. Like I might slow down a little bit before I hit that speed bump. I might maybe be a little bit extra careful, extra cautious when I'm parallel parking. But when you own that thing, man, you are whipping it. You are rolling. You are driving with confidence. You are driving with some presence about yourself, some poise. Not irresponsible, all right? Not irresponsible, but I do think Garrett Nussmeier having another year where this is truly his offense and he's comfortable in it to another degree, that's going to yield positive dividends for the LSU offense. The other part of this, right aligned with that, is the perspective he has now walking into the octagon is different than it was a year ago. And we've mentioned this a few times, but I want to revisit it. When you walk into a game in October, and it's essentially a college football playoff play-in game, that was Garrett Nussmeier's first time experiencing that a year ago. Like when they played Alabama last year in Baton Rouge, it was a massive spot. I'm not saying he wasn't ready for it, and I'm not saying the LSU defense wasn't abysmal in that game, but like Garrett Nussmeier never felt what that moment was like. When they walk into a game like that this year at Alabama or against A&M, he's going to have a better presence about himself, which better presence, better confidence, pretty fair to say at the quarterback position in the SEC should, and I believe will, yield to better results. Now, also, I mentioned the weapons around him. There's no shot the run game is as bad as it was a year ago. right? It can't be worse than it was last year. There were times where it felt like LSU was just like, we can't run the football because of who we have in the backfield. Let's throw this thing. Caden Durham, going into his sophomore year, I'm really excited to see what he can be when he stays healthy. Because when he was healthy last year, he was a dog for them, right? He became their go-to back when they were really rolling and when he was able to be at full strength. And the other part of this, in addition to the run game, I don't think your wide receiver room takes any sort of step back from last year to this year. Aaron Anderson, he's back. Y'all, Barrion Brown, one of the most, I think, underrated transfers of this entire cycle, averaged 12 yards a catch his entire time at Kentucky, and that's without a true quarterback to call a spade there. Barrion Brown, Nick Anderson, Aaron Anderson, like they're going to be in real good shape, I think, to run it up and score a lot of points there with Garrett Nussmeier running the show. So the confidence, the pieces around him, another year in the system, the mental side of it, all of it for Garrett Nussmeier, I think it makes for him being in a tremendous spot here at 2025. And I think, again, it makes for LSU, I believe, being in Atlanta for the SEC championship first weekend of December. Can't wait for it. Can't wait for it, man. We appreciate the heck out of y'all, man. Appreciate y'all making this show what it is. I say it every show because we mean it, and say it every show because I never want y'all to think this is something that we are taking for granted on this side of things. So we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. For Caden Smith on the ones and the twos, for myself, JD PicKell, we will keep this party rolling. We will see y'all.